Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Hope you guys are keeping well. We got some good news and we got some bad news. The good news is gas prices are down, only $1.84 a liter. I can't believe that that is good news. Even 6 months ago, that would have been terrifying news, but it's good news. Maybe a little bit of demand destruction, maybe a little bit of bottlenecking, which has been loosened up a little bit in the supply chain, but I'm not holding my breath on that getting any better than it already is. Anyways, we got a lot of bad news too, everything from flash floods to wildfires to record heat waves baking every continent on the planet to insane amounts of drought, which is just blanketing the grain belt. We got parabolic energy prices. We have governments collapsing. Some prime ministers are being assassinated. Some are being chased out of the country. Some are just flat out resigning. Here in the West, we have major cities preparing for nuclear Armageddon. It's now become commonplace and mainstream to talk about how to prepare for nuclear war, which is rather foreboding when you look at it on its face. And then we also have world leaders talking about how all hell is about to break loose in the next stage of this war once Russia is through with the Donbass. And we also have in the next 24 hours Russia meeting for an emergency meeting of the Duma in their government. They've pulled all of their politicians away from their summer holidays to have this emergency meeting that some people believe is going to be a general mobilization of the military. And if you're in Russia and you want to make 3 times as much as normal, go and join the military. Apparently they're paying 3 times the wages right now to go and fight in Ukraine. Anyways, that may be the job. You know, that may be one of the ways we get out of this recession, is employing a bunch of people to kill each other. Great idea, isn't it? Said the military-industrial complex. Now, Ukraine has sparked World War III, says the Serbian president. This is very interesting information, okay? He says, I know what awaits. As soon as Vladimir Putin has done his work in Seversk, Bakhmut, Soledar, after reaching the second line of Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, he will come up with a proposal, and if they, the West, do not accept it, and they won't, all hell is going to break loose. He predicted this without providing any details on the would-be initiative. Basically, what this means is that once the Russians have finished their special operation within the Donbass, which may not be too far off, they are going to give the West an ultimatum. The West is likely going to reject it. Then all hell is going to break loose, because that means that the Russians are going to have to continue further on into Ukraine, where they are less defended than they were in the east, meaning that it's likely going to be a quicker conquest of territory. Now, we know that Ukraine has pledged that they are going to be starting this counteroffensive in late July and early August. I've speculated that this is some kind of head fake, because why would you disavow your plans like that? However, this is modern warfare, so maybe you kind of have to disavow your plans. I mean, it's very hard to hide a military buildup from satellites nowadays or from human intelligence. So, perhaps they have reasoned that it's better to put the Russians on warning with the hopes that, maybe this will force some kind of negotiation or tie up Russian resources. I don't know. Anyways, we're in the last 48 hours, we've seen a bit of a plateauing, a bit of leveling off of some of the tensions, especially on the Lithuanian front with the Kaliningrad blockade. Apparently, Lithuania is now going to allow the passage of some goods through the supposed blockade. I don't think the situation has been entirely resolved yet, because Lithuania is still assembling troops on their borders with Belarus, I believe. And so, there's still an escalating tension there. I think, maybe somebody in the EU talked to the Lithuanian leadership and just said, look, we're not quite ready for this yet. Can you hold off for a little bit longer? Because we still need to get our ducks in a row if we're going to have this fight. Now, we also have Tulsi Gabbard today coming on Fox News, and I don't really want to play the bit, because then of course YouTube will penalize this video with a copyright strike or something. So I don't want to do that. But basically, Tulsi Gabbard has said that things that we've known for a long time. She was a Democrat running for the Democratic Party, I believe in 2020? Yes, it was 2020. And she's basically saying that the world is being led to the brink of nuclear war as a result of what is transpiring right now. And, you know, this is all stuff that we already know, but it's a good soundbite, I guess. And a politician said it, a well-respected one, especially in the alternative communities. So yeah, even Tulsi Gabbard knows. Now this thing here, this New York PSA, I'm still kind of perplexed about it. And maybe you guys can brainstorm what this is all about with me. Because there was just something about the way that this was put out that just didn't sit right with me. It seemed very rushed. It was very crude. It was very minimalist in the information that it provided. Now, that said, I understand why they would want it to be minimalist, okay? Because most people aren't going to remember anything that you tell them. Like for most of the videos that you watch on YouTube, you're going to maybe hold on to one thing from that video for the rest of your life. So they probably wanted to make it as rudimentary as possible so that people, you know, retained it. But still, the amount of work that they put into the video from a graphical perspective, or from, you know, even just the language that they use and the way that at the end of the video the girl says, "You got this," and "you got this," when you say that, it's almost implying some imminence to the threat that you just talked about. You know, like if nuclear war happens, you got this, you know. And it's, I don't know, it seems as though at first I thought this had to be fake. I couldn't believe that this was a real thing. It seemed too corny. It seemed too, you know, low budget. But then sure enough, I looked on the YouTube channel. It was legit. They have a, you know, backlog of videos going back many years. And even then, after I did the video on it many days ago, I thought, you know, this has to be a fraud. But it wasn't. The mayor came out and attested to its validity. So this is where we're at now, okay? This is how we get primed for what's coming, because they don't want to drop it all on us at once. Because I think they realize that we Westerners are easily hair-triggered. I mean, that should be obvious by the whole woke kind of culture that we live in, that we're very easily triggered. And you can trigger a panic, trigger a stampede with a pin dropping, okay? So I think what they're trying to do is ease us into it. Ease us into preparing for what's coming. The masses I'm talking about, not us. Obviously, we've been on this for months. But, you know, it occurred to me, like, why New York? You know, why would a PSA like this come out from New York? You know, and maybe the low budget aspect of it was to make people not take it as seriously. I don't know. You know, like people talk about the government educational videos that were put out in the 50s and 60s, but they were actually, if you go and watch those, they were a lot more informative. I mean, I'm talking about the more detailed ones. I'm not talking about the 90-second commercials that were kind of corny as well. But there was something about this that seemed perhaps a little more contrived. Now, don't want to read much into it. It could just be government incompetence. It could just be they were checking a box off their emergency management protocols. But you guys need to know that every city, every town has its own protocol for such an event, okay? And the people in charge, the people who, and I don't want to get too, you know, tinfoil sounding here, but it's the truth, okay? There is a plan for continuity of government, and it likely doesn't involve you or me. And to try not to create panic, they're not going to tell us if the situation has escalated to that DEFCON 2 level. They just won't, because even Cuban Missile Crisis, they did that. And, you know, there was panic buying back then. I couldn't imagine what it would be like right now, because we are, as much as the mainstream is still kind of antithetical to prepping, we are starting to develop a culture which is more preparedness friendly, we'll say, because of all the stuff that has been transpiring in the last 3 years. But believe it or not, you know, in light of all the things that are going on right now, you still have to give people a reason. Like, you still have to justify preparedness. And Joel Skousen said it really well at the end of that video we did with him. And this is something I really took away from that video. He said, if you give people any ounce of hope they will not prepare. They absolutely will not prepare with even the smallest amount of hope. And I thought that that was a very profound statement. Now, we got some more good information for you guys, just checking my time here. I just want to say we are going to be partnering with the Goldback company. So if you don't know what Goldbacks are, it's a actual currency which is printed on gold. So this is gold. So this is 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. I believe the melt value is around $2. The Goldbacks are a bit more because it's a proprietary process where they infuse atomized particles of gold onto a polyester substrate. I talk about it in a video coming up, okay? But it's a pretty cool way of sidestepping, you know, the fiat money system. And these are actually accepted in some states, at some places in Nevada, Utah, New Hampshire. So they got the ones, the fives, the 10s, 25s, and 50s. So we're going to be giving some of these away at CanadianPreparedness.com. The 50 is 1/20th of an ounce of gold. And you can't really get gold in small denominations like that unless it's in like a combi bar form, and the premiums are actually pretty high. So the premiums on the 50s are actually very competitive when you go down to some of the smaller denominations. But what you're really paying for is a not formal legal tender, but you're paying for the process, which is very, very hard to counterfeit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a promotion at our store. We're gonna be throwing in a Goldback. If you spend $100, each Goldback street value is around $4 USD. You could probably sell them for a lot more on eBay because they're kind of collector's items and they're in short supply. The fives are around $20, and if you spend $500, we'll give you a 5. If you spend $1,000, we'll give you a 10 Goldback. If you spend $2,500, so that'd be like a freeze dryer or something, you get yourself a 25 Goldback. And we only have a few of these to give away, but it's the 50 Goldback, which is actually about a $200 USD street value. And that one we'll give away for $5,000 just to make it easy. So we're going to be doing more promotional stuff with them because I do believe that precious metals and are things that are going to retain their value throughout this very dire period of humanity which is upon us. And the price of gold has been declining recently, and the only reason for that is because the US dollar relative to gold has been increasing. That's the only reason why. And I know that is about to change in the near future. So I'm still very bullish on gold. Now, before we talk about all the other news of the day, I want to, oh yeah, and if you want that deal, just if you place your order, use coupon code Goldback, all caps Goldback, and we will, depending on the value of your order, that will determine the Goldback that you get. I'm not going to sign it or anything. Some people want me to sign. I'm not. Yeah, don't waste your time with that. It's going to be the last of your concerns soon. Okay, so this is a message that I received from Latvia. Now, this is just one person's perspective. I'm sure you're going to find perspectives from all sides of the political spectrum, but it's important to hear these on-the-ground reports of what people are seeing. And I think this overall is a very fair report. It starts off being a little pro-Russian seeming, and then I think it ends sharing the opposite perspective. So he says, the situation in Latvia is bad. The propaganda is huge. The Ukraine is all the time in mass media. It's like some kind of cognitive warfare. The stories, videos, sounds. They do everything to make us hate Russians and protect Latvia. Russians are child women. Russians are killers and yada, yada, yada. I don't believe this narrative, but a lot of people in Latvia do. The mass media is attacking everyone who do not agree with the main narrative. And just to say, I have received messages from Latvians who do have this opinion of Russians, okay? Or, you know, some Russians will say. They are attacking even our local celebrities for being quiet and not telling the mainstream narrative. At the moment, our local boxing star, Brightus, is being attacked because he told that he is against the war. Some people is being prosecuted for supporting Russians. We are also preparing for war. Our Minister of Defense told us there will be obligatory service for over 18 to 27 years old. At this point, they're telling that drafted will only be about 500 to 1,000 men 2 times a year, but I don't believe that the numbers will be so low because they are going to build new polygons, 15,000 each, for army training. They're discussing women also in service in army. This is not his first language, English. A while ago, Estonian Prime Minister told some disturbing news. I think she couldn't take pressure and told us too much. She told us that there isn't enough NATO defense forces to protect Estonia. In a case of war, Estonia will be leveled to the ground. She also told that NATO will not defend Baltic states. They will let Russia occupy us, and after 180 days, NATO will try to liberate the Baltic states. I think that peace is only possible if Ukraine wins all its territories back. Ukraine is very important for the EU. If EU don't get energy from Ukraine, it is the end of the EU. And Russia, of course, and a lot of Russian energy goes through Ukraine. Win war or die. We need gas, oil, coal, uranium, and all these resources are in Ukraine. I think that both sides have been preparing for this conflict for a long time. Why should NATO risk and take Baltic in alliance? Our army is pathetic, our economy is small, our geographic location a disaster. It is impossible to defend Baltic states. Our geographical location is great for attaching Russia. 8 to 9 years ago, I spoke to a guy from Latvian National Guard. He told me that USA thought them not to protect Latvia, but to conduct guerrilla warfare. Some people are trying to get out of the Baltic. Me too. I think that after a year or two, there will be war in the Baltic states. Hope for peace. Well, I think like Joel Skousen said, my friend, I think at this time, hope is folly, you know, in light of what everything is going on. I mean, what is hope? Like, it's a good optimistic way to end a conversation or to go out on a positive note. But at the end of the day, I mean, hope is, you know, it's nothing. It doesn't have any material translation. So I would encourage people not to be hopeful. I would encourage people to enjoy the moments. Just because you're not hopeful in the delusional sense doesn't mean you cannot enjoy every waking moment that we have right now. Well, you know, things are relatively okay. So I would encourage you to, yeah, definitely, you know, enjoy everything. Anyways, Emmanuel Macron has issued a warning about the Ukrainian conflict. He says that there's a good chance that they will be cut off from all Russian gas, and it's going to be a rough winter. And he also expects high intensity conflict. They're going to try to reduce their gas consumption to pass the peak of this winter. So guys, I do think that the winter is going to be hell. It is going to be hell. We talk about this emergency meeting that is going to be convened tomorrow. I think we're going to know, you know, we're going to know a lot more about where this is heading within the next 24 hours after the outcome of this meeting. This is German energy prices. If you can see that here, that's where we are right now. That's where we were just back in 2021. It's unbelievable. It's gone parabolic, 700%. I mean, that's called a collapsing economy right there. That's called governments are going to start toppling soon. That law that we talked about, Russia obliging domestic firms to support the military, that is, you know, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and that's a real thing, okay? Russian companies are now banned from refusing military contracts while operations are going on. The measure is likely necessary due to the reluctance of some companies in Russia to want to work with the military as a result of being sanctioned by the US. So they're putting an end to that, which is effectively an Emergency War Powers Act, right? Because you're saying that all domestic industry now is at the whim of the Russian government, okay? We have the CPI numbers coming in almost at record. We're not in the 70s yet, but we're way deep in the asshole of the 80s, as you can see. So yeah, the 80s kind of sucked. They really did kind of suck, you know. There were some good things. There was some good music and stuff like that, but you know, it was a pretty dirty time to be alive. The 70s were a lot worse. Europe facing deadly heat waves. We have heat waves in Texas. Look at this drought map. This is absolutely insane. So the grain belt is right around here. This is a map of the grain belt. So this is where we get all our wheat. The corn belt is kind of around here. And the Corn Belt isn't that much affected, but everything else is very affected. So this red is severe drought. And you can see Texas is just baking right now. And of course, this is contributing to wildfires. Alaska as well. Behind me here, that's Alaska in moderate drought, but that's also fueling the wildfires. So I know we're going all over the place here, but there's just so much information. I think we're a couple days behind in our daily updates, which is why we just, there's just so much going on. We talked about Lithuania deploying troops. We have the Russian foreign ministry spokesperson basically saying the same thing that Tulsi Gabbard was saying, that nuclear escalation is happening. Zakharova accused the United States and its allies of provoking more crises in Ukraine and risking an open military confrontation with the country. Obviously, such a collision would carry the risk of nuclear escalation, she said. Also, Lukashenko, the Belarusian president, has claimed that there are strategic plans for an attack against Russia being developed by the West. So I only can wonder if, and I don't understand how Belarus would have this information and not, Russian intelligence, which I presume is much better. But this is the news headline that's been circulating anyways, that Lukashenko has some sort of top secret information about this pending attack, and that the main direction of the strike is through Ukraine and through Belarus. There's also talk that the Russians are going to start conscripting or trying to get Belarus into the fight because of they're suffering, troop losses or something to that effect, and they need more manpower. Again, Belarus, I believe, is a country of 10 million people. I don't know what the exact population is, but compared to the 140 million population of the Russians, I'm not sure how much stock I put in that, but this may well have something to do with the emergency meeting, which is being done by the Duma. Now, we also have Biden, who is open to using force against Iran to prevent nuclear weapons. Now, obviously, this is kind of one of those media sound bites, right? Where Biden says something like, as a last resort, we will go to war with Iran. And the media runs with, Biden says, we'll go to war with Iran or something like that, right? So slightly taken out of context, but he did say that he is willing to support Israel in a, joint offensive against the Iranians, which, based on past military exercises, which were done when the Iranian military was even weaker, didn't really go well for the Americans. The Americans have done these military exercises. One is very famous, and in one of those military exercises, they famously lost to the Iranians, who then, of course, would also close the Strait of Hormuz, which would cause oil to go parabolic once again. Now, I've heard the word on the street is that what Putin's plan could potentially be is to completely cut off Europe from oil and gas and wait till the winter time, wait till he has cut enough deals with the other BRICS nation, the Chinese, Indians, and all the rest, and then completely cut Europe off as, kind of using that as leverage, and that would definitely tank the European economies. I mean, you can't deny that this has not went well for the West. I mean, look at, Boris Johnson, the Italian prime minister, who's just resigned. It's not going to plan, I don't think. We also have some speculation from the U.S. Defense Ministry that the Iranians are going to be supplying the Russians with drones. A couple parts of this just doesn't sound right, because why would the Russians need the Iranians' assistance? And if they did, is that because they really need the assistance, or really is it just symbolic? Is it really just a show to, is it really just to show the West that the Iranians are now under the Russian nuclear umbrella, and that if you attack Iran, there's going to be consequences from Russia, or maybe Russia is going to help Iran get the bomb? I mean, who knows? Who knows where we're at right now? Syria, North Korea, Iran have all, acknowledged and pledged their support to the breakaway republics. You know, the dividing lines are being drawn there. Even Saudi Arabia and Turkey now are considering joining the BRICS alliance, okay? That's China, Russia, South Africa, India, and another country, Brazil. So you have the world splitting into two. Hungary has declared an energy emergency. You know, what else is new? Guys, you know, prepare to stay warm this winter in Europe. We have the Russian gearing up for mass production of Sarmat ICBMs. State-of-the-art missile is being prepared for new tests, but they are going to be rolling these out this fall. What else do we got here in the news? What haven't we talked about? Oh yeah, apparently the US is at risk of now losing hundreds of thousands of troops who didn't want to take the jab. So as we go into World War III now, you know, they're going to have to pick their battles. And by they, I mean the government. They're going to have to say, okay, well, maybe we're going to have to make an exception here because we're going to need troops to fight World War III. Looks like food bank lineups are at record levels once again, but it's okay because there is a massive cricket processing facility that is being opened up here in Canada. So when the food runs out, we'll be able to eat crickets. You guys remember that movie Snowpiercer? You know, what will we do when the engine stops? We all freeze and die, right? Funny movie, but it's the truth. And that movie is an analogy of what the world looks like right now. And in that movie, they feed crickets to the poor people on the train to keep them alive, to do all the hard manual labor, while all the rich people eat all the meats and, you know, all the good healthy stuff. So that's pretty much where we're headed, somewhere in between the Hunger Games, Judge Dredd, you know, Snowpiercer, Demolition Man. You know, pick your post-apocalyptic dystopian sci-fi. That's where we're at. We talked about the drought. We talked about the drones. Twitter was offline once again for the longest time in years. Interesting. Twitter went offline right after all this Elon Musk stuff went down. So I wonder who's sending a message to who there. But anyways, all sorts of shenanigans going on all around the world, my friends. All I will say is enjoy your summer. Looks like we've about run out of time. And again, use coupon code Goldback. Get yourself some free Goldbacks. Real money when the shizzy hits the fizzy. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe.